Sarah.
That's not a good first word.
We've recorded this one. We're recording now, so.
Got it.
Yeah, that's great. You go, lovely. Percent by the end of the year. Yeah, I probably am kind of here, right?
It's gonna go away. I guess that's where we're
Oh. I do have. In May, I'll be someplace in the car. Either driving, either moving daughter into Boston or bringing her home. Older daughter. So in May, she'll be moving there, but then I get questions like, "Can you help us find a two-bedroom apartment?" I'm like,
in Boston.
well, it better be on public transit. I don't think they can afford buses on their budget. They might be out in Worcester or someplace like that.
We can automate workflow.
Well,
I'll let you know.
yes, yeah, I'm here. We have a hot prospect and HR and all. Yeah, JC, how are you? Good. Megan, Danny, there's.
But I thought, and I'm curious to hear. Also, there's so many, like, it's not urgent. Oh, God. Yeah. There's another one. It's like my study buddy. Like as like, I don't understand this part. It's like, it's just this, like, very top level, every, my favorite, you have to dig in. I just. He's my second business that I was still. It's fun to kind of have one thing. And then they hire. Keep it up, we'll make you learn the rest of the time. You have other people learn to do a lot of the. But he is in Florida, so at least those classes are all.
I was up very early. Yeah.
I do. You're doing.
I'm sorry. Well, I will. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's
It's like, well, he's not going anywhere, so. Okay, well, fine.
I probably have 50 complaints on my desk because they just get thrown back in the monitor.
Yeah. But then that means that the little one who graduated from May wants to move to Boston.
There's like a lot I have to know. This is like 4 months.
He's like, well, I'll go and I'll skip what I can, and then I'll go drive and stuff. And I'm like, exactly, yeah.
Will work, but she's also going to the companies that she's looking at acquiring.
I think Jerry's got a pretty good size and close trailer.
Well, that's true. I didn't have to tell them. You know? Yeah. The German and the. Finger use.
I mean, like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where did you say that?
Yeah.
Order stuff. So I could take 10 years to push this stuff, so that I just.
And your thought, it's like years, but right there last week. Like, well, it's moved again.
But I'm glad you're here.
All right. So.
Brian.
There's Jill.
Yeah. So I don't feel like.
Brian. Yeah, he loves taking vacations. Yeah, he should.
I didn't, first when I left, so this 20 minutes, 20 minutes after we went, that's the last person that is. So, of course, it's great. Pretty tired. So I didn't really get into this, but I thought Brian and I heard say something about being ready for that.
What do you got? What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm like, can I do what's written here to introductions? I don't want to. You know, if I need to add some more glowing accolades, you know, now it's your time. If you want to, now it's your time. Yes, it's just back from Milan Cortina and completing in the newly mixed two-person bobsled. Finished just outside of the medal.
Yeah.
Just outside of the medal.
Took the red eye. I might have to.
People have questions about the Korean squash. Probably have to pick one or the other.
I found curling.
I can say we watched it for like 2 hours.
I watched, because my son played it for a little bit, he got into like, that like, we have to pick curling things. And he like, I've got six three or something. So that his, a couple of his buddies did it for winter. And so.
Well, at the team.
Yeah, so,
So then I kind of got to,
yeah, let's see.
but then I, every year.
We picked 2 pieces.
Well, I like ask each day questions like he knows anything. Yeah. Different curling one for. One of them is summer. She really. That's how they. That's how they like. Yeah.
They both sound good.
Much like a goal, that maybe they'll start already watching the goal.
This is better.
So maybe I should. run for it. But they're like be on the laptop and looking at something and they're on YouTube and they try and find cat videos. And they were all sitting there and it was like a squirrel, like eating, and then they're like, oh, this is the game more cat. All of them realized that they were.
Yeah. Some of them clear by journal. Positive, hazard, start clocking. The closets, big enough in the spare bedroom. And then because we don't post a lot of stories. But it'll be, it'll get hurt and do the tracks on, so. Weird. Out of the way. And just like that.
Like it. Like I was scared of the balcony.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, that means we have to go to that room. Mommy, that was. Spend things in it. Lock the doors. The original call code. So you say, have you get that? Yeah, so it can have like some original like five doors. The hollow one. Yeah.
I'll probably do.
The doors were for our.
What did the other? Yeah, they would probably be.
Did you get some good help? Yeah, my brother. This went pretty quick. Did his wife come or did she stay? She stayed at home.
Oh, US House. He enjoyed it. Maybe he was doing it.
Yep.
So I said before, I used to hate it.
Settled on. There, we try to stay at home every now and then. Very much open. It's similar to.
I had some like topics. Yeah. But she was in a jam at daycare. So.
We are talking about that.
Like, little salad.
Yeah, what are they? Like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, why? Like, you keep on?
No, I really did not.
He's like,
They all stop.
that's why I think so.
I mean, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, this, they're the word.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Yeah, so we're.
I'm glad
It is, yeah.
it's not another
I know.
fast food place, but
It's more, you know. Like, I don't watch it. Move it, yeah, right, exactly.
I mean.
I'm not scheduled to work. A little bit. Yes, sorry, yes, we do. Yeah. But, which is nice. I mean, we have like flexibilities, like we have heard, if we do reason, like we can, but, yeah. Like, how would it be?
Okay. You?
Yeah, how about you?
Right.
I'm good.
Like, it's just something different. Do you know whatever?
Words for the cards. Salad, all that.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, we had not. First,
I just been looked at my calendar and.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, I was like, I brought lunch today and I was like, oh yeah, I did today, so I'll save it for the time.
You're in.
Oh, one. I have another complaint.
Yeah. They have to go to the office, like, charge. So, that's. Just gonna see if we have anyone.
Kathy had the computer open.
Yeah.
We have a bunch that are in.
I think mine was outside.
She was going to work and drop off. So she was planning on.
Yeah. I mean, having it done like in the football stadium was just natural because you want to act in it.
Is that Jordan? No, he didn't. He's out of a local.
You're on like.
But she's still trying to look for something. Admin, so. Because I kind of told her, oh, it's like.
Thank you so much for joining us and for our LASHRM monthly meeting. We have a couple of people who are still working their way through the buffet line here, which is great. Lunch is included, right? So why not have lunch with us? But thank you all for coming. We'll get started with some announcements and then we'll introduce our esteemed speakers and learn more about uses of AI in HR. So here are our 2026 board members. I'm John Trapp. I'm the current president of the board. Our president-elect is Rebecca Schrader. Rebecca's not with us today because they're attending the Workplace Policy Conference in Madison. And they also get to go to the LASHRM State Council meeting and represent our chapter there. We have our past president, Taylor Forshee here. I don't see Allie Gray, our treasurer, but our treasurer-elect, Amy Callahan is here. Rebecca Franzen, our board secretary. Boy, that board secretary job, there's a lot of parts really connecting things for us, Rebecca. So I really appreciate what you're doing here. Nicole Huygen, our certification director. So if you have someone in your organization who would like to pursue a SHRM designation, or if you yourself are interested, please reach out to Nicole and she can get you information about study groups and things like that. At the back table, we have Amber, our membership director. Also very important to the functioning of our chapter. So if you haven't renewed your 2026 LASHRM membership, you'll be hearing from Amber or a member of the board here because we would really like to have you in 2026. Kathy Zimmer, our social media director, and then Sammy Boudreau, who is our emerging professionals director, and also within that capacity is working with students at our local colleges and universities. So thank you so much to our board members. We do have board openings. And if you're motivated, these openings are available immediately. So contact us. You could be on that previous slide next month. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. We'd like to get more active within governmental affairs and governmental and diversity affairs director. That's open. Also a programming director. I will say programming, all of our 2026 programming is set. And we would have a long runway to get things ready for 2027. So if you're interested in those positions, please get out your cell phone and scan that QR code, and then you can get more information there. I'll continue on with these. Rebecca Schrader has asked me, how do you prep for doing announcements? I'm like, there's prep? Like I didn't even know. So we're gonna up our game here with announcement prep. We have new members. So Cheryl Kamla from City of Onalaska, Sarah Feck, who's a new member and in the room, and then Ian Walker. So thank you to all of our new members, whether you're in person or attending online. You're new too. Oh, who are you?
I'm Colleen Skemp, and I'm here through Fractal HR and a new member.
All right. All right. Well, and also Colleen Skemp. So welcome. We have annual sponsors, and they are really important to our success. So Capital Line Intel, Boardman Clark, the Insurance Center, Express Employment Professionals, the Alliance, and also Trust Point. But if you're part of an organization that would love to sponsor a local HR group, we can always add another sponsor. So if you're interested, we could, arrange sponsorships in the role of payroll, HRIS, company branding, recognition, executive coaching and development, HR strategy and education. Like the previous slide, get that cell phone out, take that QR code, and we can get you connected to that sponsorship opportunity. Upcoming meetings, in March, always a popular one, our HR legal update. In April, we'll be talking about, building a grief inclusive, workplace and strategies for HR leaders, around that. I think there's a seat, at that table over there. Yeah, super. Full house, I love it. Next time we'll have more chairs. Our main, meeting is, Future Ready Leadership. Then we have a June meeting. We're very excited about the speaker that'll be coming into town for that. Breaking Barriers, Women's and Men's Health as the cornerstone of workplace wellness. Then we take our traditional summer break. So you don't have to plan your vacation around our LASHRM monthly meetings. We don't have monthly meetings in July, August, or, September. October, we also don't meet because of the state conference for Wisconsin SHRM. And actually, having members of our chapter attend the Wisconsin State Conference is very beneficial to our chapter financially. They're looking for us to hit certain goals in attendance there. I had the opportunity this past October to go for my first time. And I had great fun at the conference, but I loved volunteering. It was so fun to meet all the HR professionals who would come from all over the state. So upcoming meetings, I think Amber would have something to say to me if I did not plug. On Friday at Javavino from 7:30 a.m. till 9 a.m., we're having our coffee chat. So if you have time in your schedule for Friday, and would like to join LASHRM and your fellow members for a cup of coffee, there's a registration on our website for that. Next month, we have our legal update by Gordon Clark, presented by Storm Larson. Storm is always excited to get up here. He's from the La Crosse area, so. There's our coffee chat. So 2 plugs, Amber. Again, we have a QR code, so go ahead and scan that, get registered. We'd love to see you, buy you a cup of coffee, and just get to know you a little bit better. Any additional announcements that any of our members would like to make? Sammy?
I'm Sammy Dutrell. I work at Ultra, and I just wanted to plug an opportunity that we have available on our HR team. If you're interested or know anyone who's interested, we currently have an opening for a benefits and leave specialist. So if you work in the benefits realm, manage leaves, it might be a great opportunity for you. It would be located at our operations center in Onalaska, and you can apply online at ultra.org. If you have any questions, I have some other Ultra people with me here today. We'll stick around at the end if you want to ask us any questions about it. But at a minimum, feel free to look at it on our website.
Well, Sammy, thank you for sharing that opportunity for benefits and leave benefits at Ultra. So that's an open position. Any other announcements? Sarah?
Sure. I'll just take a second to plug. I'm hosting a training workshop for new leaders. It's foundational training. So it supports all of our HR efforts and that we want really good leaders, right? And we don't always know how to be a great leader. I've got some information about it. It's going to be at the Country Club on March 24th. So if you want just information, just come see me at any point and I'll give you further information. Thank you.
So hey, you're welcome, Sarah. So if you have some, new HR leaders, maybe new managers within your organization, and they need to step up their leadership game, very often people were very good in their departments and now they're in charge of their departments and we haven't cultivated those leadership skills in them. They have the technical, but they need that motivational and those tips and tricks to hold people accountable. So Look for that, talk to Sarah, or find, I'm sure people can find you online, Sarah, as well.
Absolutely.
So, super. Today's presentation, finally we got there, wow. I should practice this, it wouldn't take so long. So today's presentation, we are very happy to have, joining us, Chad Williams and Emily Ware from, Innovia Consulting. They're going to be talking, to us about transforming HR with Copilot agents, automating routine tasks to focus on strategic people work. We all would like to automate those tasks so we have more time for our people. I have some short bios here, and although Chad and Emily have, I was gonna joke about the Olympics and they just won the bobsled or something, but we'll keep this straight. Chad is the Chief Technology Officer of Innovia Consulting with over 20 years of experience in Microsoft technology. For the years, he's taken on a wide range of roles, but the common thread has always been his passion for using technology to improve how customers work and interact with their systems. Emily, who many of you might know from her long and very successful tenure as our board secretary. Emily is a LASHRM certified HR generalist at Innovia Consulting, passionate about employee engagement and continuous learning. She leverages emerging technology and tools to improve workflows and enhance the employee experience. She also enjoys developing and sharing innovative solutions to effectively utilize technology as part of a team of two with a remote workforce. So we all know the pressures of being on a small team in HR. So there's another possible multiplier effect. So I'd like us all to welcome up here, Emily and Chad.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, sir. My name is Emily. This is Chad. We're here with Innovia. We want to talk a little bit about what Innovia is.
Sure. So Innovia, we have an office located here in, Onalaska. It's over by the, I believe, Chief Davidson, dealership. I don't live here, but I don't know. Excuse me, but we are a Microsoft partner, so we work with customers with their ERP systems. So accounting, finance, manufacturing, job, all of that good stuff. And we do a lot with technology. So the solution we work with is called Business Central. It's part of the Microsoft Dynamics suite. But we also do a lot of stuff with Teams, our platform, SharePoint, Microsoft Online, all of that stuff. And so today we're actually here to talk about Microsoft Copilot, which is part of all of the AI buzz we've been hearing for the last few years.
Okay. Then we have some key takeaways for today. So hopefully you walk away with some new information. So we're going to talk about what Copilot agents are and how they differ from standard Copilot. Identify some high impact use cases that everyone can walk away today with ideas. Learn the basics of creating your first HR agent. So we will do a live demo of a quick creation of an HR agent. And then help you figure out how to evaluate your readiness and implementation considerations. And then look at some real examples and success metrics. So I would like to start with a question. So what are your current pain points in your HR workflow? Like what takes you forever in a day to do?
Enrollment.
Okay. Open enrollment,
Merging reports.
merging reports. Do you get a lot of repetitive questions about handbooks, time off, how to do something? Any triage where you're trying to figure out where something needs to go that comes in, or having to physically move something to a spot when it comes in? Onboarding. All of onboarding. Do you guys currently have any struggles? I know we do, so our HRIS struggles right now, so we have to do a lot outside of the HRIS. One of our main points is our annual compliance training and tracking that. We have to do that in a spreadsheet. And no matter how pretty you make the spreadsheet look, it is still a spreadsheet that you have to manually update. Any other pain points you can think of?
Annual reviews.
Annual reviews, yes. So let's hit on what Copilot agents are, and then we can start to merge those together.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a software developer at heart, so I'm gonna be very careful to try not to get too techy, so throw a radish at me or something, but it's okay. And, we like questions, so if you have a question, comment, thought, whatever, go ahead, we don't care. I like more of an interactive presentation myself, so feel free to speak up if you have anything. So Copilot agents, simply put, so first of all, let me back up. So I think we've all heard of everything, all the buzz around AI. So agents are a piece of AI that you've probably heard about in some of your circles. And so that's really what we want to focus on. So your ChatGPT, all of that stuff where you're asking questions and prompts and stuff, this is all tied to that. So a Copilot agent is simply something that can get something done for us with the use of AI. And I like to extend that to say there's actually a lot of opportunities in our daily work that we do that are very tedious, that sometimes don't even require AI to do them for us. So sometimes I like to ask people to even think beyond that. It doesn't have to be a complex. Sometimes it's tedious stuff. Myself as done a lot of software development, there are a lot of tedious tasks in what we do that developers don't like to do. And I'm sure there are a lot of tasks that you do. We're going to show an example about Employee Handbook. I'm sure you get lots of questions because I know I bother Taylor all the time and Emily all the time. But probably questions that I don't need. Right. And so that's kind of what we're, so, simply put, they're AI powered assistants that can help us do what we do. Okay, so there are three main types of Copilot agents, and they really kind of, as you look from left to right, they're kind of, from simple to more advanced, and they're kind of built on top of each other. So on the left side, I'm sure is what most of you have all interacted with, which is just retrieval. So it's going into ChatGPT, asking a question, with it, it's getting the information back. Sometimes you're scratching your head wondering, what is it talking about? Other times, I hope you're just amazed by what it can do. If you haven't had one of those moments, I really encourage you to give it a chance. Don't throw it out. Give it a chance. It's not going to be perfect, but when it wows you, you're going to be hooked. It's pretty much been our experience. So anyway, so retrieval. That's just getting information, you asking for something and then giving you something back. Task is taking that another step level. It's actually helping you do those boring tasks that you don't want to do. So, helping build PowerPoints. Although I will say, Emily, doctor, this PowerPoint. Very well, but I mean, PowerPoint, the agent inside of PowerPoint can help you build your slide if you had a presentation. Help you draft emails, all of that good stuff. So that's more of a task base. And then when you get on the right, it's a little bit where people get a little uneasy because they have flashbacks of sci-fi movies or whatnot, where they actually become autonomous. And they have very specific guidelines. So if I had a task that when every time I asked Taylor the same old question again, and she just clicked the button and said, I answered Chad's question. So that's in the middle where it's doing it. She's invoking the action, right? But you can take it a step further where, an agent could be monitoring an inbox with a certain subject or a certain question in an email that if it could answer, could automatically, or by asking Taylor, say, hey, you got this email again from Chad that asks the same question he does every month. do you want me to send this response for you? So it doesn't have to be just where it goes out on its own, but it can do these things for you. And again, the scope of what they can do are very defined. You know, we're not letting them just take over everything. Okay, yes,
So would, an AI that assists with handbook questions, would that be in that retrieval category?
yes. And so that's what we'll do to show today. We're not gonna go kind of keep going to the right, but you could actually add things to that to then actually make it an autonomous one where if I sent you an email that had something that could be answered on the handbook, it could automatically send a reply to me.
Okay, so the retrieval would maybe be someone is going to an area of the HRIS system that's specific to handbook questions and it's retrieving that. And then an example of an autonomous agent would be, you know, programming it to look at my email and intercept those handbook questions. Yeah.
And just, and I say this as a developer, as a programmer, when you say program it, don't think this is super complicated. A lot of this is stuff, Microsoft is really making a shift to get people away from having to utilize expensive developers. And so a lot of it is just click and set up, as you'll see. Yes, you had a question on that?
Well, when I think about that, automating the handbook response for an email, so I use AI a lot in my work. And I just always have to go through everything line by line for accuracy. So I have like a feeling, like the idea of an automated email answering a handbook question, like what if it's wrong or slightly wrong or missing a nuance?
Right. Yeah, so you have to verify these things, right? You don't just turn it on tomorrow. And that's where I said, so a lot of the uses today are more where it might draft that email and then say, hey, here's what I looked up. Does this look right? And then give you that chance before you actually send it. So it's automating, seeing the email, digging for or doing the retrieval, putting together a draft of an email, and then it could, you know, give that to you so that it's not just, because that makes us all nervous, right? Especially in what you guys are doing, that could be very bad. I could only imagine. So, yeah, didn't know where you. Okay, so, it has lots of capabilities. Did you want to jump in on that? Yeah.
So these are just some of the highlighted options and capabilities that the Copilot agent can do. And as Chad said, Microsoft is continuing to release more agents. They're also working on more HR specific agents as well, so having those pre-built. But you can look at it for recruitment and hiring support, and I will be talking about best practices because there are some things, as you highlighted, to keep in mind, especially for HR, when using Copilot or any AI for best practices and for making sure you're getting accurate responses and doing this smartly and safely. So a Copilot agent can help you with recruitment and hiring support, with job postings, helping to draft offer letters, creating language for you that you can then review. So you're not just blindly posting anything. It can help with comparing candidate resumes, but again, with that best practice, keeping the human element in it, it should not be involved in any specific hiring decisions.
Yes,
I
please.
hate that I have to say that, but. And then onboarding and employee experience, helping it with, automating, and again, best practices coming up. But creating onboarding documents, personalizing someone's welcome plan, and using a knowledge base to create something specific for that employee based on their department, based on their job, based on the job description, and, what information you give stating what their role will be. It can work with employee engagement, policy updates, data analysis, reporting, meeting productivity, action tracking. If you use Teams, Copilot can integrate right into Teams. It can take notes for you. It can create summaries of the meetings. It can give you action items based on what was said in the meetings. And then also, within Outlook, helping with
case resolution if you use a ticketing system for an HR request that come through, or have anyone in your system that uses. Yes, David.
I just want to add, because it was a crazy thing that came up in one of our staff meetings, that there's a function in Teams where you can have it change like an hour-long staff meeting into like a podcast style. So people can like listen to two hosts talk about like what you missed in the meeting.
Yep.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Super.
And if
I'll give you just summary notes if
Yeah.
you miss a meeting.
you don't.
So that's actually an example of an agent. It's the agent that's built in with Teams and Meetings. And there are other products out there. I'm sorry, if you're not utilizing Microsoft, we are a Microsoft partner, so that's kind of the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But there are similar technologies out there. But if you are using Microsoft, we'll talk about the licensing later, but what you can do in Teams, when you have it summarized and record meetings, it's just amazing. But it saves so much time if you miss a meeting, you want to come back. Or if you missed a previous meeting, a series, it'll give you things to ramp you up for the next meeting. And usually it's pretty accurate.
And it'll pull transcript as well. It'll flag who was talking.
Yeah.
And you can sync it with the video, and can summarize based on what someone said if you want to get down into the weeds on it. So there's lots of options.
So if you're like me and you hate to take notes while you're talking, or you can't, I'm not very good at that, but there's a lot of times I need to take notes. It's gonna take really good notes for you.
That, so best practices. So the big thing is responsible and compliant design, so focusing on processes, not people. So we don't want agents evaluating employee performance, ranking, scoring, or comparing employees, recommending any disciplinary action. That should never come from AI. Assessing candidate fit or hiring decisions should not be AI. Promotion, termination, compensation decisions, medical, legal, or accommodation requests should not go through AI. And AI should never override any HR or manager approval workflows. So those are very specific guardrails to keep in mind and keep in place, because you can absolutely go off the rails with AI, but we need to be professional about it. So having that strong foundation and governance, and then thoughtful deployment and adoption, so starting small and building on it versus trying to just go all in, jumping on, creating 8 agents and then letting them fly. That would not be that. If you do that, let me know. I'd love to hear how that went. I would not recommend it. But we want to make sure we're using approved and high quality knowledge sources. So when we get into the live demo, especially with Copilot agents, you can flag it so that it doesn't search the web at all. So when we're doing the handbook, we can upload specific knowledge sources and it can only use those. So it's not going to create its own answer if it can't find it. It's just going to tell you, hey, I don't have that information. And then I think you can even add in language that if it doesn't have that information to direct back to the HR person. So we want to make sure we are really going through that data that we're uploading, making sure everything is well structured and it's ready to go before we're adding it in. And that we give it clear, well-defined instructions, which we'll go through. Again, start small, start with 1, and then test it a lot, refine it, and make sure it's running really well before you start scaling. Because it's going to learn as you use it and as you ask it questions and as you refine it and as you update the instructions. It's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And then you are going to keep learning more and more and more as you do it, and will feel more comfortable taking it to the next level. And then also setting clear expectations, not just for yourself, but also for your employees when they start using the agent, once it's ready and it's live, being like, hey, just a reminder, it's going through this information. If you have a very specific question, please ask us. Like, we're always here. We're always happy to help. Yes.
So it keeps coming up in my mind. I'm actually trying to write an AI policy for my workplace. It seems like having that in place might be nice to do before sending your agents off.
Yeah.
I'm especially worried about like managers trying to do
Yes.
people problems in
Yes.
collaboration with AI and
Yep.
giving private information.
Mhm.
Okay, but you say.
Okay, yeah. The next thing is working very closely with your IT team to make sure you've got all the securities in place. And that if you are going to be using a company AI, it's an approved AI. So like we use Copilot internally. And Chad and our IT manager worked really, really hard to get all of our security set up so that we were being incredibly safe using it. So yeah, don't have them.
And I will add, so out of the box, Microsoft Copilot is incredibly secure, so it is all within your, it's called a Microsoft tenant, but you know, think of your organization, so if you have SharePoint, all of that data that you have out there, it stays within that boundary. And so your data isn't going out, it's not training models on the web, it stays all inside, but it is important to have some guardrails over what people are doing. The other thing I wanted to say quick before we take one more question is, Emily mentioned the data. So we say this a lot in reporting. If I have bad data that my report is utilizing, what do I get in my report? Bad data, right? And so this is very similar. If I have a lot of bad data, old data, obsolete data, and these might be files sitting on SharePoint or OneDrive, reports out there, that's what Copilot's gonna have to answer some of these questions, unless you're creating an agent that's specifically pointed to a knowledge source, like we'll show you in a bit. But, you know, keep in mind, if I have errors in my handbook, Copilot's going to base its answers on that false information. Yeah, okay.
Does anyone have a policy on AI use that they'd be willing to share for others to? Yeah, I have one.
I have one. I'm writing one. I would love to learn from you too.
Sounds good. I really referenced the SHRM template on the national website and I made it my own personal one.
Is it, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Is it very restrictive, medium restrictive, or a little bit more open? Because I think there's levels of like.
Yeah, we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, I was curious because part of it from my side, from an IT standpoint, it's all new. So we want people to just get in there and try. But you bring up a very valid point, and then to be able to craft a policy that lets people be creative with it while also being safe.
So part of, I work in public sector, and we have all of our data retention laws that we have to comply with, what does that look like with you? So if we were to use it for AI or for, at the very far end, we're automatically responding on our behalf, those are things that are still stored in our email or sent items, if we get like a public record request. to produce that information.
Yeah, that's a bit out of my expertise. I mean, I do know that from a Microsoft standpoint, there are different levels. So if you're in government, or there's what's called ECC high and so forth. So there's different levels to Microsoft. So for most of our organizations, we are working within a normal area, but I know there are certain companies that have some of these compliancy things, government compliancy things, and they actually work in separate environments. Beyond that, I don't want to speak to something I don't have a object.
Any other questions? So we're just gonna touch on some knowledge sources. So the ones we're gonna be looking at today are HR4 documentation, so handbook, and then our state's addendums, because it's, yeah, we have like 200 pages of information. So agent's very helpful with getting through that. But you can also use benefits and compensation materials, onboarding, lifecycle content. So including like offboarding procedures, exit FAQs, job description templates, role frameworks, learning, compliance and training, any mandatory training requirements you have, compliance calendars, the training materials themselves, if you wanted to put that into the bot for questions, policy acknowledgements, and then tracking that documentation, creating a frequently asked questions agent. That would be, I think, probably a continuing to grow and learn type of agent. So as you ask questions, it gets better and better. For SharePoint and Microsoft libraries, and then the operational HR process documentation. So SOPs, any HR workflows that you have, internal servicing requests, or if you use ticketing triage. And then change management playbooks, if you have that.
Yeah, so I mean, this just kind of expands again on some of the different things that, again, they can do, because, so in the previous slide, we showed the knowledge sources, and as you see in the demo, it's all kind of put that together a little bit better, but ultimately, it's the knowledge source is what the agent's gonna use to answer his question, so that's where it's grounded in, and what it knows. And so when you get to it taking tasks, to becoming a task or autonomous, these are some of the actions. So just information retrieval, you know, if it's Q&A, that kind of stuff, just audience triage. So we actually, example one, and it's a good example back to your question. So we do support for our customers. So if they have an issue with their software, they send in a support ticket to an email address, and there's a team that responds to that. Now, what we built there is an agent that monitors those emails that come in, and its job is to determine the urgency. And so it's not the sole way that we would find out if it was an urgent issue from our customer, but it's that front line of it will review it, and if it feels it's urgent, it's actually going to send an approval within Microsoft Teams to two individuals. And so then they're clicking that to make it do that next. So there's that review process in there to make sure that we agree this is urgent, and then automatically kicks off an alert basically to the team to let them know that came in. So just an example of kind of a triage and routing and workflow support.
So then some HR use cases that you can start with now. So if you're thinking about an agent that you want to implement, there are some ideas. So we're going to be going through the handbook policy agent. So that's a really, really, really good starting point. But if you have ethics documents or open enrollment, again, guardrails, keep the human element in there. So that's not trying to extrapolate on benefits questions. Onboarding concierge, which again is down on the farther side of the spectrum. Time off of leave guidance, again, pulling from a policy if you wanted to get specific with it. Compliance and training reminders. If you add in a calendar, add in dates with who needs to do what by when, that can help you with that. And then if there are any internal job posting questions. So uploading the job description and having the agent answer any questions about the job description internally. Any questions so far? Okay. So this matters because it gives you time back. It helps with consistent compliant answers based off of the documentation that you upload. Saves everybody time, gives everyone a better employee experience. So they're not waiting on your response. If you're in the weeds with like 130 emails and their email is number 85. That's my inbox right now. They get their answer immediately. And then if they have a follow-up question, they can reach out. And then operational insights as well of finding those sweet spots of where you can save time, streamline processes, open up time for other experiences, and create that internal insight of, hey, we now have more free time for this, or, oh, wow, I didn't know this was taking up so much of my time. Where else can we apply this? Okay. No demo time. Have it. All right.
All right, so I'm gonna start here. So we're gonna get into the agent in a minute, but what I wanted to show first is, so this is actually Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. So if you go to copilot.microsoft.com, you can look at this today. There's a personal side of it, unlicensed side that you can view. The second have all these elements, obviously. But this is that main area. So if you utilize this, you know, this obviously, is anybody using this today? Okay, so roughly half, about 2/3 or 1/3, I should say. So good. And so you're familiar here. So this has basically two experiences to it. And you see that up at the top.
Yeah, there should be.
Oh.
Mark,
So up here at the top, you see the work experience and the web experience. So if your company is licensed with Microsoft Copilot, you will have that work and web up there. And so the difference is their work is going to look at data in your environment. So your SharePoint files, emails, that kind of stuff. If you want to ask it a question that is just, you want to just utilize what's all public knowledge, that's the website. But there are times where I switch it because I want this answer from outside. I don't want it to surface up some old document we had sitting on our SharePoint, and it does that. And sometimes it just, you just have to be patient with the odd things that it does sometimes and recognize the value that it's giving. So, so that's the main.
middle.
It's what?
Middle button.
Okay. I don't want to shoot anybody in the eye. So that's this is that main chat area, right? So that's where you're asking it questions. If you haven't utilized this, if you've utilized ChatGPT or anything like that, this is very similar. But if you haven't used this at all or ChatGPT, I really encourage you to come in and look at it because this is really a helpful tool. It can help find information. Much in the way we search the internet for stuff. I mean, all information and different things that we look for today is all at our fingertips. And sometimes it's hard to, when you're searching the internet generally, what's that right search, what's the right keywords to get what you're looking for. This gets through it really fast, very often. And it doesn't just point you to websites, it gives you complete answers. You gotta validate those answers, look at where the sources came from, but it gives you a very good start. And many times it's much more than a start, and it saves it time. So over here on the right, you kind of have your main panel here of all the different things. So there is a search side to this. Microsoft has added, what are really examples of other agents, and you see them listed under agents, but they've added a researcher, an analyst. You can see already the US handbook, that's what Emily already built. We're going to build a new one. But then there are examples of these out there. So I think there's one out here already with, that's kind of an HR starter. So they've given you templates to do these, where you then just feed in your knowledge sources to utilize them and you can start to play with them. So the other thing I want to talk, so when you're kind of just using that search, it's utilizing all of that information that's out there, either inside your environment or out on its public domain on the web and so forth. When you create an agent, what you're really kind of doing, the example I use is, it's like you've got a scope and you're kind of fine tuning what you're zooming in on. So rather than it being really good at answering a lot of different things, you're tuning its knowledge to answer something very specific. HR related questions found in the handbook, for example, or benefits found in this document. When you get into this, one of the mistakes that people make and where they can get frustrated is they try to make a super agent that can answer all of these different questions. They point it to a lot of different knowledge sources. And where the technology is today, where we have found the most success is when you fine tune that agent. You can create multiple agents, but let each agent kind of do its specific job. Okay, and that probably will change over time, but today that's what we have found the most success is being very specific what your agent should do.
Can I give an example of that? Because I broke my first agent.
Can you do this and this and this?
Because we have Canadian employees and US employees. So I was like, okay, I want to put everything into this agent. I want it to be able to differentiate if this person's a Canadian or if they're a US based employee and then answer questions based on that knowledge. And that was like, no, you're not doing that. And then it just wouldn't work.
Why not? Why was it too much?
Because I was asking it to make a differentiation that it wasn't ready to. I didn't give it the right criteria. I didn't give it the right information. And I didn't set the agent up for success with it. And I made it too complex for my first jump.
When was that?
That was I did that last year, I think.
So with the advances, do you
It
think
could.
it might be
I haven't
Different,
tried it
better
again.
now.
I got a little scared.
different? It's different now than
It
last
is.
year.
Yes.
And so one of the parts we haven't really talked about that you'll see when we get into it is you have knowledge sources, but then you have instructions. That's
Yeah.
where you're telling the agent exactly what to do. And that is really the art form of this, if you will, is much like if you've used any of these technologies, ChatGPT or this, when you create those prompts that can really dictate the success you might have with it. Very similarly, you draft instructions that tell the agent exactly what it should do. And so I think what we had found early on is the more complex those were, the less successful the agent could be. That is definitely going to change. But you'll see in a moment how critical that is to it being successful. If you do not write good instructions, it's not gonna do a good job. Now, you can cheat a little bit because it turns out Copilot's actually really good at writing instructions for itself. So sometimes it just blows your mind. You're creating an agent and then you're using a different agent, you're using Copilot to actually help you create it. Show that. So it doesn't, I don't want to make it sound super scary either.
So one question, Emily, in that scenario where
Where it broke it.
where you broke it, would it be more specific to perhaps have two agents?
Yep.
And then you'd have a US-based employee agent, and then maybe the only
And the
triage
Canadian
question the agent would have to ask is like, what state are you in?
Yeah.
So then if you give them the California specific or
Yeah.
Illinois specific, and then have a separate Canadian
Yep.
version.
The issue I was having as well is our handbooks are not all in one. So we don't have like a Canadian section of the handbook and a US section of the handbook. We have our US handbook and our Canadian handbook. And I think I was trying to create a lot of if-then statements of said, if they are Canadian, you use this one, don't use this. And then if they aren't Canadian, you do this, and then you don't do this. And then it just I got way too in the weeds on it and broke it. So.
So, maybe I don't have people who are in different countries, but if I have union and non-union,
Mhm.
maybe I have different agents.
And so now I'm gonna get just a tiny bit technical, but there is actually the capability to have agents work with other agents. So
Yes.
from an employee standpoint, you don't have them going, which one of the 20 agents do I need to use today? You could have one central agent that then kind of farms out to all of your other agents, so to speak. I know that starts to get a little bit more complicated, but just those things are, it's capable of doing.
In this case, I can make my US handbook agent, and I can make a Canadian handbook agent, and I can then give them a parent agent that can then farm it out.
When you say you broke it, like, what happened? Like.
It just stopped responding. It couldn't answer the questions. It would not. And it was bad.
And either won't answer the questions, its success rate would be very low.
Yeah,
or
it wasn't doing it.
it just stops. It would say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question or something. It's like, okay, well, thanks for being honest. Like, so, thanks for not making something up. But yeah, it was kind of,
Questions.
and it really, and at least in my case, it was all in those instructions. I had to reword them.
Copilot, if you continue asking it questions on a thread, at some point, it just says, okay, we're done with this conversation. Like, at some point, it says, like, you've reached the end of this conversation. You want to start over and take the rest. It's just reference other conversations, right? So like, once you start a new chat, it's done, you can't reference old ones. And so I like to continue with the chat if I'm right. Got multi-states, I've got like a matrix I want to refer back to. And after some time, it's just like, okay, we're done. I think, oh, yeah, this was somebody who did work together. Like, does that happen? Some you do it. Like, do they just at some point, like, do that?
I haven't had
Anymore, okay.
I mean, maybe, do you have Copilot licenses?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think. I don't know, and I do that a lot because when you.
It's like,
Yeah.
I've already just had a conversation. But it can't, it just says like, you've reached the end of this conversation. Please start a new chat.
The next
So they
one.
do, like, it's chat, and they're like, check again.
The next one that I'll be using is gonna be
I am in Copilot, it is a work Copilot, it is like referencing internal and external documents, and it just, at the end of,
At some point, there's just a limit to the size of that.
Yeah.
So,
to the memory.
I
But
mean, well,
it happens a lot, so. It happens.
maybe it doesn't like you, I don't.
You bet you are, you're saying.
Yeah, very, and I want to make it.
But it does, but, I mean, it does work if you do utilize it and you're going back to a topic and you can see that history of your chats there. It does work very well to go back because now it has the context of all that discussion. And it doesn't forget what you were talking about. So if I come to interrupt you, you can come back to it 2 days later and continue right where you left off. So that is nice. But yeah, I haven't run into the limit, I guess.
Probably different. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My question was not relevant.
Yeah, I'm broken.
Thank you for the question.
Well, I don't work in Microsoft. I work in Anthropic, so I use Claude. And it's definitely a thing in Claude where depending on your level, you'll run out of memory. And so I'm very used to like summarizing things at the end, like summarize this chat for me. And it'll give me all my key data and then I can bring it over and start again smoothly. So that's offer that to you.
I just have to be able to do that before I reach the end of my.
Like, see that I can't talk to you anymore. That isn't a thing.
Anyway, okay, it doesn't tell me.
Yeah, it's, while she's typing, it's actually an interesting thing that I read an article on that so many resources are being utilized because we're so nice to Copilot, but it doesn't actually care what it's. Say please and thank you and that kind of stuff.
I think it's good for, I've asked them about this and the AI will say, I like it because it's good for you to be nice to me.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants to put it in a hostile conversation. You guys get it done.
Okay.
So now we're actually in creating a new agent here.
There's new tabs up here, so it's gonna automatically bring you to the configure tab. So you'll wanna go back to describe. Unless you want to configure it yourself.
Yeah, so you don't have to know how to do this out of the box. You can utilize, it has an agent that's gonna help you build your agent. And so you can just start in here and just start to describe what you want to do, and it's gonna start to build it for you.
Yeah. Okay, would like to add some knowledge sources.
Vendor. Okay, I was up on the desktop.
So I've got our handbook, our state addendums, our US holidays, and our employee benefits. These are not our medical benefits. These are just like the extra like cell phone reimbursement. Not like you get to go to the hospital.
And so now it's minutes thing. Sorry about that.
So you kind of can work with this interactive piece for a while, but then ultimately end up switching over to the configure tab that she clicked on. And then you can kind of see what it's actually done. There's actually not too many pieces to this. They're relatively excuse me, simple.
And you can see it added in what I dragged and dropped. And you can turn this on to only use specified sources. Or I can double click it. There we go.
So the agent, and one, as I said earlier, one of the key components of it is the knowledge sources. So what information are you grounding it in? So that's what Emily just did. Is She uploaded those PDF files. And then there are a couple of additional settings here, only 3, not many. So it's not overly complicated. But then you can tell it to just utilize these resources. I don't want you to use the general knowledge when you answer the questions. And you can further affirm that in the instructions you write for it, which will show that.
And with this new one, because this wasn't here the last time I broke everything, to reference the org chart and profile info, you can probably have it. I would still make multiple agents, but this might help if somebody's not sure what agent they should be using, they can check their info.
And so again, can you just pause on the knowledge source? So knowledge sources are, can be files on your network. It could be Excel, whatever you want. You can also point it to specific websites. So if you don't want to utilize all of the web, so we have a specific site that we use a lot for Microsoft where all of our training documentation is. So, you know, to point it to that, or Microsoft licensing is incredibly complex. You know, I can point it to the website about Microsoft licensing and have it answer questions. So you don't have to just have it on your documents. You can give it other sources, but and then kind of narrow its scope on just those websites that are relevant to the information for the purpose of your agent.
And if you wanted to add in your own company's website in here as well, you can do that.
When you say website, could that be a public site or that private like intranet? That maybe could also be.
Yes, I think it'll allow
limited
you,
resource.
yeah, it definitely will let you utilize external sites. If it's a SharePoint site internally, it absolutely would.
Mhm.
Utilize that.
So the instructions that I wrote. So from my little one line, they created instructions.
And so these instructions, so this was early on, this was the most challenging part of having much success here is you had to be very specific about what you wanted your agent to do, but then we didn't really have any good examples of what it was looking for. And so the agent that's building the agent has gotten much better at generating instructions for itself. Just a little odd that they didn't train it to do that out of the gate. But, you know, one of the things we were doing, and when I say we used to be doing, all of this is moving so fast. I mean, I'm talking 6 months ago. We would take our instructions and I would put them into Copilot and ask it, say, I'm building an agent. Can you help me reword these instructions? Be more specific. And then that's actually when I had the most success. And one of the agents I broke, you know, I was able to fix it by doing that. So it does a pretty good job of going through when you're utilizing that interactive screen on the describe side. So it's going to come in, it's going to give it a name. It's going to have a description. So that's the description. Anybody that's going to utilize it will see. So make sure you put something in there that's meaningful, that describes what your agent does. And then we have the instructions and knowledge base. And that's really the components of an agent. And again, these are just the agents that are going to surface information. You know, when they talk about tasks, an autonomous agent, those add other things to these, but this agent is just, you know, that Q&A type of agent. Does that make sense? But even at the autonomous side, there's maybe 9 components to an agent where these have like 4. So they still don't get super complicated.
And then there's a spot you have been collecting like frequently asked questions for your handbook. You can add those in as suggested prompts, but it's not required. Or you can have Copilot
Or it
create.
can generate suggested prompts for you. So every demo is different. Every time you go through it, it might do something different. Sometimes you know, even if I'm trying to create a PowerPoint or whatever it might be, sometimes I go through this. I just start over, start a new prompt or just go. It gives me something better. So I know that's the frustrating part of it, but I hope if you give it a bit of a chance, you'll see there's still that benefit of the time it can save you. So it's not always gonna do something differently or wrong, I should say. You can create templates if you had a template you wanted to utilize that's based on, but for the most part, you know, you just like new agent, go into the describe and just like you would with Copilot, start to tell it what you're looking to do. And it's gonna build all the pieces. And eventually, yeah, you've got the try tab where now we can test it and see if it actually does. What we're looking for.
And like, it's just little rainbow thinking.
Yeah, and just like when you're using the search, it's a little random on how long it takes.
There is a question in the chat that says, if someone creates an agent but moves into a new role or leaves the company, what happens to the agent? Does it automatically change owners? Can owners be assigned to a team of people? And then who are added, removed from updating and monitoring the agent?
All right, so that's, so there are different ways to do it. That's probably a little bit more of a technical discussion. It's really a concern across all of these utilities that Microsoft's built that allow non-developers to create reports, to create little programs, to create agents. Empower you as a user. From an IT management standpoint, it does add a layer of complexity to manage what happens if the owner of that agent leaves. How do we handle that? And so that's probably a whole other hour-long discussion on some of the different aspects of that, but there are things out there, but I will also say there is a little bit more management to it, and it's getting better. I would, from early days, especially from a reporting standpoint, Microsoft's, it's called Power BI reporting. Anybody could create a report, but from an IT standpoint, it created a little bit of a nightmare because it was hard for us to manage. Microsoft is getting over that hump and making a lot of advancements in it and doing the same here, but I won't go any deeper than that now. Did it answer our question?
Right.
So,
I have a question. So you created this agent. If your handbook changes, because you're in a new year, you have new updates, you just go back into this agent or remove that old document, add the new one?
Yep.
I was gonna add to with the Power BI conversation, I used to do like some flows for an old company that I worked for. We ran into that same problem when I was leaving them, kind of the succession planning for the flows that I built for them. And just to offer to your question over there, we had kind of figured it out through like collaboration. Like we had, a group collaboration account that we kind of shared my flow with, and so that was able to work for them after.
Right, yeah, you end up using kind of what we would call like a service account, so it's a non-user account. And then that you eventually make those flows or agents or reports have that service account own them, so to speak, or be a member of that. And that cleans some of the units.
it pulls everything, so it gives us our accrual, requesting policies, notice period, cashing out PTO, carryover, our negative PTO balance, anniversary, end of employment, and then give specifics for state law. I asked a question that I knew wasn't in the Wisconsin policy, so to show a negative, so it says, hey, based on all available information, that's not in there, but here is what is included for Wisconsin, for the state specific. So it did a nice job of reading through the policy and being like, I don't have that information. I know something that we get asked a lot internally, so like our policy for working while traveling. What, thinky thoughts?
Is that the name of the policy or is that generating?
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our policy name. That's our handbook name. So, I know we have consulting US employee handbook, 11/19/2025.
Oh, right, sorry, but like, the policy for working while traveling, like, that's not the name of your policy, right? Like, this is able to extrapolate this is
Yeah.
the information they're looking for.
Yep. Yeah. I think, but
If as a user, if I had asked the question,
how much PTO do I get? Would it have been smart enough to then come back and say, I need to know how many years you've been at Innovia, or would it just say it couldn't, or would it just link that?
The things we don't have it tied to the org chart, we don't have it integrated with our HRIS. So,
It's a good test. I'd be curious if it would turn on and ask the question to get more information at in here.
Finish thinking here. Here we go.
One thing I'll point out, so you can see where it's referencing in the document. So as you're working through these and building them, make sure it's referencing what you expect it to, kind of back how you test it before you let it go.
I know, I am the queen of breaking.
Last week when we were going through this together, like I've never seen it take that long to answer a question, so I just.
There we go, all right, yeah, it doesn't like me, but there we go, I timed out, okay, well, I'll do this question instead, this should be,
Nothing like live demos.
yeah.
So, do you share this agent with your employees so they're not asking HR for these questions or?
Down the road, so this hasn't been shared internally yet,
You
so,
guys are just like playing. with it.
yes, this is just a test.
So you would, to finish this, there's the create button up in the right hand
Yep.
corner there. So you would create it, and then it's gonna show over on your left, so you can see her US employee, US one.
What was your-
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. But then you would share it with folks that you want to, either to a group or to individuals.
Can you, in like the collaboration style, share it with editing permissions to keep
Yes,
collaborators?
Yeah, you can do like a contributor, or if you're just like a user, redirect what the actual role names are, but yeah. So yeah, if you want, your peer to review it with you. So it did ask us something.
So it gives the tenure accrual. And then exact PTO balance, it asks follow-up questions. And I think through testing this, I would add an instruction that if it's asking for your current PTO balance, like this would be a good moment to be like, oh, I need to tell them to go to the HR system to look at that. Because that's gonna have their exact balance, but
You can ask after this, so it's like.
yeah.
Time or.
And then we also, because this is just our base PTO, so we do have people that start at a higher tier as well that we don't have built into the handbook, so, but
And if you played with any of this early on and maybe got frustrated with it, again, so every time I work in here, the answers look better, they're more formulated, so there's just so much development and improvements going into this. Like, as you blank, it changes sometimes.
Hit it for me.
Okay. This is a chat question. Is any of this access free or is it all licensed or at a cost?
what a great.
Yeah, so so most of what we are showing today is all Microsoft 365 Copilot. If your organization has Microsoft licensing already, so you have an account with email and all of that good stuff, it's an add-on license that's $30 per user per month. If you're an individual wanting to license this, then, there is licensing. Microsoft has a couple of different tiers, but they range from $100 to $200 a year. So that's just you personally if you want, so I don't think that would apply for most folks. But yeah, you do, so you can do some of the just basic Copilot stuff, but if you want to get into building agents and doing some of the other stuff, you do have to get that $30 per user per month license.
I know you guys are Microsoft specific, but in case is the equivalent for agents in the Google world gems? Is that an equivalence or do you know?
I don't
It's Google Gemini. but-
It's Gemini, but
I know, but I thought that there's a new thing where you can make gems. And that's the similar thing to agents. And I was wondering if that's
yeah, I think,
misunderstanding.
so I know some of the companies are using agent as a general term, but maybe some of that shifting, I hadn't seen it, so. Yeah, I mean, we do utilize, I utilize a lot of different, searches, at times in my work, so. As I'm sitting here, you know, with Microsoft t-shirt underneath, I don't. You know, don't hesitate to look at them all, because it's all changing so fast, they're all learning, so I'm not here I'm obviously working with Microsoft, so, but if you're not using it all, please just get in there and use it. It's not here to take your jobs away and all that kind of stuff. I think we see a lot of that out there. I think the landscape of how we work is changing. And I think that people that are embracing AI will have the future. I think people that are gonna really fight it, they still have a future, right? I don't know if that sounds catastrophic, but I think that it's gonna be a little harder for them at times. So, it's a valuable tool. It helps us do some of the tasks we don't like to do anyway, so why not? And, you know, we're all gonna see where it goes and what it can do next.
Always like to highlight, we do live and we have recorded workshops and webinars, especially as we move into the AI space, Copilot. If you are utilizing Power Platform in any capacity, there was mention of Power BI. We offer a variety of webinars. While we do mostly work with Business Central, we do also support those other facets. We also have a podcast, very fun, Innovate Conversation. And then if there are any questions, but I want to just throw this up here for contact information. If you have any questions or would like any further information, feel free to reach out. Always happy to help. And then I add a QR code of our LinkedIn's. But any questions? You're at time. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's too new of a topic to not have a conversation, but, and hopefully, you know, if nothing else, when I do these presentations, it's just about creating that curiosity, right? So, if you see something cool, check it out. Because yeah, it can be very helpful, and thank you.
Yeah. Let's do the giveaway together. Yes, yeah, so we are, for our attendees, whether you are hybrid or in the room, we are gonna give away a copy of AI prompts for HR professionals, so that's our giveaway. And if Emily could help me spin the wheel.
They are turned on. There you go.
Can you tell I was a theater kid?
No?
Liz.
We'll get you that book. So thank you so much. Thank you all for attending, whether you're here in person or online. Amber, one thing.
Please put your name tags back on the table on your way out so that you don't have to remember next time.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I love it. I love it. When I look at this-
No, do it. I did it 5 years. I didn't talk to anybody in the board. John's the president right now, so. Yeah, there's stuff on the website too. No, you're good. Yeah. And it's just getting speakers, and that's not even hard. Oh, the program. Yeah. Like, you're not afraid to reach out to different people, or, you know, work with other people. It's like yeah, you know, you work together, you're just in charge of reaching out, giving schedule. Yeah, it's not.
It'll be. It'll be. Reach out to your.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, well, you know, your people at my school get work by on that tree. Well, we are very happy.
Well, just for me. Yeah, just for me.
Now, the family tax is blowing up. Apparently, they are in the morning, and someone said, it's wonderful and very much needed. Very much, so we'll take a bit.